So, this thing with disinformation that goes around quite a bit of the time, where people will say, disinformation, disinformation, okay? This video could be classed as disinformation, but I would rather this be looked at as perhaps another avenue for us to do some research with. And it's worth looking into. Now, okay, so first off, I've got, I think this is called Fluty Form, this one. This inhaler here, okay, and it's a steroid, very, very nice. Now, I have this. If I don't get it off my doctor, I will buy it online and get it anywhere. Anyway, so there's one. Another one is a mist that you inhale, you spray it and you inhale it. And this liquid is really great at getting rid of mucus, basically. You inhale it, you spray the mist as a fine mist and you inhale it, and what it does is it cleans out your lungs. Yes, this one. And then we have some of this stuff. Now I'm trying not to touch it as much as possible. This one is called methylene blue. Yes, you're right, it's used for fish. Okay? Now, disinformation, I wrote this to the NHS back in just when this pandemic started getting going, just asking these questions. I've had no responses just yet, but I think they're so busy with things they just can't get back to anybody. Now, here is an idea. Now, I don't know whether it would work, but I'm just saying that if we stop this rubbish with disinformation and telling everyone, oh, it's disinformation, and then shutting them down, how about we look at it that some people could be saying, here's an idea. Have you tried this, this and this? And then isn't it up to the medical teams to go away and research this, come back and say, yeah, that works, or no, that doesn't? Why do we, when someone has an idea of something, do we shut them down with disinformation? Because they're not a doctor. You don't need to be a doctor or any specialist to have ideas. You're human. You're an idea being is what you are. You will constantly come up with ideas because it's what humans do best, right? We think. And that is not disinformation. And humanity has been thinking before qualifications were around. Look at the pyramids. They built those without education and without education systems because someone had an idea. An idea, and look at what it did. And nowadays, come round to the century that we're in now, no one's allowed an idea because it's disinformation. Right, so I'm going to move on with this video and risk being shadow banned and all the rest of it. I don't mind if I'm shadow banned because the people I want this video to get to are the scientists and the doctors and the government as, have you thought about this? Now here's how it is. So we've got a set of lungs here, haven't we? Okay, and okay, they're not the best drawing in the world. Now, this stuff here in this inhaler has a steroid in it, and the steroid behaves like a certain situation that we're in right now without mentioning the name of what we're all facing and have been facing, okay? Now, this stuff behaves very similar to it, but once it releases its steroid, and there are better ones than this, by the way, you can get ones that are just specifically to do this. They release their steroid and block the receptors into the lungs, right? So once you've got these receptors with something that's safe to take, and they start blocking most of these receptors in the lungs, okay, and also this reduces inflammation, swelling. It's a wonder drug, okay, and you're able to block the bronchioles up, okay. And now when we have, without mentioning in it, can people understand what this is right here? If I were to do this without mentioning what it is, you lot will have to use your imagination, because I think if I don't say it, they won't ban my video. Do you know what that is? And if I just call it C now, we'll just call this one C, right? Now, if this wants to get into here, this spike this protein spike wants to block in here and then explode and create more that want to block inside these bronchioles. If you already had something jamming inside here, such as this, do tell me, where is that going to attach?
Nowhere.
Nowhere, because it's already blocked, right? Now that's not it, right? So if this can't attach in here, you do not get sick. So if you don't get sick, what does that do? Is that not preventing it? Anyway, so here's the next thing then, right? So obviously this alone, you would have to keep taking a course of this every single day for as long as you got this. Okay? For as long as it's around, take this stuff, okay? Not only that, you will also take the mist that you will inhale, this stuff, you'll inhale this, right? And what it does is it gets in your lungs, it coats your lungs, and then you hoik it up, is what you do. And this stuff removes mucus, phlegm, tar, you name it, and it will start to break it down inside your lungs, right? So let's say you have some of these that are trying to find their way inside your body, right? And they just can't do it because there's nowhere to go because it's all blocked, right? And then you inhale this mucus remover that then goes into the lungs, grabs these little fuckers here, and you cough them up with it and spit it out. Are you going to get infected?
No.
My personal opinion is no. And then you'll be like, so what's with this methylene blue then? Well, I'm not saying that it's a good idea that anybody should try this without actually having a medical professional go away and test this first. Now, if you were to drop a little bit of this shit in with here, and were to inhale it, plus with this stuff increases your hemoglobin levels. And they say that if you remember in the beginning, this stuff is very much like the hydroxychloroquine, but it's different. This stuff is very different. This one was used in the beginning to try and treat malaria. It ups your oxygen levels. It also, they say if you take too much of it, it also stops toxic shock syndrome as well, by the way. This one is very good at stopping it. And when you think about all of that and bring that into your mind for a second, with what this does, it also, if you remember in the beginning, I researched this in the beginning to find out what it could do, and it said that if you took a large amount of it, it caused heart problems. Only whilst you were on it, it could cause some heart problems when you took high doses of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like the thing that you get.
Yeah.
It can cause heart problems, right, in a small percentage of people.
Yes, I see.
So if you understand that the benefits, so they say, outweigh the risks. So let's say not only were you on this, but you also took... Oops. You also took this stuff. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Cool.
Looks like injection.
Yeah, and you also took this. Okay, you took both of them, so times 2 that. Plus you were taking this. Plus you were taking the mucus remover. What are your chances now at getting it?
Much less.
Much less. Why? Well, because if something is already blocking the receptor that it wants to get into in order to make you ill, and you've blocked it with something that's safer, how is this going to get into something that's already occupied? It's not going to. It's got nowhere to go. So, while it's got nowhere to go, you might as well get it out your system with this stuff, and it will come out. And once it's out, you know, it will... Once you got it, it's then... Well, then they'll say, well, how long are you going to be able to go on like this for by doing this to block it out? Well, you know, if this is all around and there's one thing I haven't seen. We're dealing with all of this. We're giving ourselves these things,
Yes.
and why is no one disinfecting the streets? You know, I mean, I don't get it, right? Everyone's like, all right, where is this thing coming from, yeah? And let's wear this. Let's keep away from this. Why have the government not got their councils out in force across the whole of the UK, and they're not cleaning all the streets? Walls, floors, ceilings, streets, you name it, and we're cleaning it all away. We're disinfecting absolutely everything, and we're going to try and wash this out of society. Along with taking all of this, we get out in droves and we start cleaning everything up. Everywhere starts getting a massive clean. Buildings, roads, paths, pavements, lampposts, street lights, everything. Everybody goes out in force and we go out and start cleaning. Why? Well, I thought if bleach is putting on their bottles and other things are saying it will kill it, then why are we relying on just this method and we are not, again, let's say we use this method, which is what? Let's say we use this method, yeah? Where
Yeah.
you've got this, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's another layer of defense. Yeah? Let's say you use this one on top of it. MB, methylene blue, yes?
Yes.
That's another layer.
Mm-hmm.
Mucus remover. MR. And that's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go out and we start cleaning the streets. So street cleaning, SC. Okay? Now, you've got 2% that you're going to do it with this. You've then added another percent, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6 layers worth of protection versus your one layer of protection.
Yeah.
To my way of thinking, if we was doing it this way, you know, I just don't get it. When you go to war with something, what, you just flick a little bit at it, or do you throw everything you've got at it in order to win? So at the moment, the way I see it, we're in a war. We are in a war with this stuff. And we are just so blasé about upping layers of defense because of disinformation, because of this person saying this because he's not qualified. I am not qualified to have medical background, but I can research stuff. I can look this stuff up and find out that there are tropical steroids that can block bronchioles off. And if they're blocked and you've blocked the receptors off, how is this going to infect you in the first place? And let's say that it doesn't block all of them off and only some of these get into you, yeah? Well, I thought it was all about load. I thought it was all about the load you receive.
Yeah.
So if you only got 1 or 2 in, does this not reduce the load?
It does reduce the load.
So
Lowers your chance to get infected. Really infected. Yeah.
So I don't understand. You see, I wrote this to the NHS right before this situation started kicking off. That was these were the first products I went straight in for and researched. Wrote it over to the NHS. I stuck it on Facebook as well, underneath a load of pictures, and all of these posts have disappeared.
Yes. Yeah.
I am not swaying anybody's decision and saying don't get this. I'm not swaying anybody's decision. I'm not telling people to go and do this. I am merely asking a question to the science as a philosopher. Is that right? I don't know, maybe not. And I'm saying to you, have you thought about trying this? But yet there's so many ego wars going on right now, is what it feels like. And we've got egotistical doctors, it would seem, that want to be the ones that know and be the ones that breakthroughs happen. And because they're not the ones doing it, and you've got random people on the streets doing it, that kind of makes them look a bit bad, does it not? That damages their ego. Doesn't it? Someone else is walking forward and doing what you should be doing, rather than relying on one thing and then giving up. So we get here and then we just quit. We put all of our eggs in this basket. I mean, I don't know. I always look at situations, and every single situation should be viewed as an onion. Okay? And as this one is one layer of protection.
Add more layers.
Add more layers. This is another layer. This one's another layer. This one's another layer. And then you have another layer. And what you find is, with all of these layers, you are making, or trying to make, an impenetrable shield of protection. And that's what you're trying to do. Ultimately, in every situation that you are in, aren't you trying to basically make a shield around you, but not just one defense? You need multiple defenses. It's like going into the internet with only one firewall and having no antivirus software. If you've got antivirus software, anti-malware software, you also got those, I don't know, those virus scanners on your websites that keep you safe from bad websites. Another layer. These are layers of protection, layers of encryption, and yet when we go to life and we look at something as deadly as this situation, we wrap a blanket around it. And that's it. We don't keep sharpening the arsenal that keeps sharpening everything around the situation. And if it's all about load, and you take this and some of them get into you, could you potentially make some sort of antibody by getting a minimal amount of viral load? So anyway, I'm going to leave this video here. So can we